Hi guys, this is a worksheet I handed out. I think this was the end of last week or the start of this week, and I realised I've lapsed and I haven't actually run through it with you yet. So this is a worksheet for 10FS. It's finding sides of right-angled triangles. So this comes after the video of finding angles. So we're just taking a step back. I'm just going to run you through this. So if you wanted to pause the video, it would be a good idea for you to have already attempted these problems. If it's not something you're really confident at, maybe try 1, 3, 5, and 7. And then once I go through 1, you might start to pick up on it and be able to do 2, 4, 6, and 8. So without further ado, we'll do a little bit of trig. I need a calculator for these problems as well. So the first thing you want to do is just check what sort of problem it is. And so here we're finding a side, and we've already got two sides, so no angles are going to be involved. This is going to be Pythagoras, so it's the short side squared plus the short side squared, and that's all square rooted will give you that long side. So that's going to be the square root of 10 squared plus 12 squared. If I need to close that bracket as well, don't I? So my answer is 15.6, and it's centimeters. Hopefully you guys can read that. You might need to put this on full screen. Okay, this one is also Pythagoras. So we've got the long side, we've got a short side. We're just looking for another short side. So that's going to be 13 squared. So squared alongside, take away a short side, and if we square root that whole thing, we'll be left with that side there, and I believe that's going to be 5. So let's have a look at that. It's just one of those ones you can remember, I think. 13, 12, 5 triangle. 13 squared, take away 12 squared, all square rooted is 5. So x is 5, and I look at my units, meters. All right. Now we are trying to find a side given an angle. So now it's trigonometry, right? The measurement of 3 angles, trigonometry. So first thing I do is label the sides, and remember that right angle points to the hypotenuse. So I'm looking at SOHCAHTOA. Now, which one of those has O and H? Sine. So if I take sine 20 degrees, if I decimalize that angle, that is the same as taking x and dividing it by 15, taking the opposite, dividing it by the hypotenuse. And so if I was to undo this equation or solve for x, I just have to times by that denominator. So 15 sine 20 equals x. 15 sine 20. 5.1. So x equals 5.1 centimeters. Nice. A tick for that, a tick for working, and a tick for the right answer. That's awesome. What do I do now for this one? Is I label everything. So I'm not dealing with the opposite angle, but I am dealing with the hypotenuse and the side that's beside that angle. All right, so the adjacent. So I'm looking at cosine. So cosine of the angle 47 is equal to A over H. And I have a denominator there, so I just times by that denominator. 60 cosine 47 is x. You don't have to put a multiplication in there, but it doesn't hurt if you do. So 60 times cosine 47, and that's 40.9. 40.9 millimeters. Very good. So we're down onto this one here. So we've got an angle of 39, a side of 18, and an unknown side of x. So I need to label, well, that's opposite and that's adjacent. So I'm looking at tan. So tan of the angle is equal to the opposite over adjacent. And look at that, it's the denominator we know, so we just times through by 18. So x is equal to 18 tan 39, 14.6 if we're going to 1 dp. And that is meters. All right, first thing we do with this triangle is we label. That's opposite and hypotenuse, and then we plug into our formula. So opposite and hypotenuse is sine. So sine 22 is opposite over hypotenuse. Okay, and now we don't have the denominator, so we can't times through. What we do instead is we switch this and this. So x becomes sine 22, and sine 22 becomes x, and x becomes sine 22. We just switch those around. I've proved that before. So 10 over sine 22. So we go 10 divided by sine 22, 26.7. 26.7 meters. So a tick for for plugging in, a tick for rearranging, and a tick for the answer. That's how these are usually marked. Okay, so first thing I want to do is label. And I'm not dealing with the opposite. I'm dealing with the hypotenuse and the angle that's beside the side that's beside that angle. So A and H. So cosine. Cosine of 50 is equal to A over H. And we don't know the denominator, so we have to do our switch there. So x equals 12 over cosine 50. Plug that in. 12 divided by cosine 50 is equal to 18.7 millimeters. Not very common to go to 1/10 of a millimeter, but it is common to answer to one more significant figure than the question states. Last problem, we're looking at opposite and adjacent. So it's tan 20 is 25, the opposite over adjacent over x. And again, it's the switch. So x is 25 over tan 20. We have 68.7. 68.7. Our answer in units, centimeters. Hopefully you got all of those right. If not, hit me up if you have any questions. Nice, lads.